Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy Mikey Bustos here, bringing you another video. For this video, I wanted to share with you a crazy story. It probably is one of the most unbelievable times of my life. I kind of sometimes relive the entire moment, and it was truly terrifying, to say the least. Check out this picture that was taken 2 years ago while I was in Cuba snorkeling. Okay, so what happened was it was my first time vacationing in Cuba. I was there with my cousins and my brother. And, one of the, I guess, activities that they offered on the resort was snorkeling, and it was cheap. So we were like, yeah, let's do it. They took us far, far, like deeper into the ocean. It wasn't snorkeling like at the beach. We sat in this small, it was like a sailboat catamaran thing, and we took it down, 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 far into deeper water. And the water was fairly deep. Like we couldn't see it to the bottom from where we were. And I asked the local, the tour guide. I asked him, what are there any dangers in this water? Like, should we watch out for anything? And he was like, no, the sharks kind of stay away for two reasons. The waters are fairly shallow, even though you couldn't see to the bottom. He says it was relatively shallow. And the water was warm, which meant there was low oxygen in the water. So the water was basically predominantly occupied by dolphins, if anything. And the dolphins themselves keep the sharks away. And the same goes for the barracuda. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of tourists do this, and they know what they're talking about. So we went out. We got our snorkeling gear on, flippers, the whole works. And so we go in the water, and they give us bread, to kind of like feed the fish. And all these beautiful fish were coming around. It was gorgeous. And actually, it just was the most amazing and almost spiritual thing I've ever experienced. Just the fish swimming all over you. It's unreal, eating your bread. So I'm watching some of these locals. We reached this station, this floating station where, there were like, I don't know, like 8 or 9 locals just kind of like hanging around. And they kind of like just told us to stay in the area when we were snorkeling. And I saw some of them diving, and they were going down, 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 all the way to the bottom. It's funny because from the top you don't see the bottom, but when you're in the water you could actually see the bottom, and it's pretty far. So all the locals are diving, and they're going pretty deep. And I tried it, because me, I can't just stay on the surface. I want to do what the pros are doing. So I tried it, and it was hurting my ears. But me being like so extra, I wanted to do it, and so I did. I went down and I fed the fish, and you know, I was kind of floating upwards and the fish would follow me. It was so cool. Now, there was a cameraman who was going around taking pictures of all the tourists, so that we could have something to bring home as memorabilia. And so he's taking pictures of me, and I'm kind of underwater, with my snorkel, being a pro. And all of a sudden, the fish kind of just go, they like disappear. I'm like, what the hell? And I look at the cameraman, and he's looking at me going like this, waving his arms. I'm thinking he wants me to look at the camera, but then I'm like, something's not right. So I'm looking at him, and then he starts pointing in my direction. So I'm like, what's going on? I turn around because he's obviously pointing at something behind me, and oh my god, this humongous, humongous shark was like floating towards me. It was huge. I had never seen a shark like that in my life. Now, in the picture, it kind of looks like the shark is far, but to me, This shark was so close and it was huge. This thing was, it looked like this thing was the size of a monster truck tire. Like this thing was, it was huge. The head was like this, and it was kind of just floating towards me with its mouth open. The thing I remember the most was its eyes. The eyes were, they were, they lacked pupils. They were just all black. It really looked like it had its eyes on me. Like it was distracted by nothing else in the water. It was just looking at me while it was swimming forward. And you know, we kind of made eye contact. There was no question. This thing was massive. It was huge. Like words can't even describe how huge it was and how haunting it was that it was just going and I could see all its teeth. It was so creepy almost how it was kind of floating at me with its mouth open. I I was in shock like instantly. I went I lost all my air and I'm like swimming like crazy like this and I was certain that I was going to die. Literally, I was just I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden I look in the distance and all of these locals are diving into the water cuz they had been notified that there was a shark behind me. And you know some of them had like these harpoons, and as I'm swimming forward this huge harpoon goes like just right by my ear, and I could hear it cutting through the water. It went like that, and I'm swimming and I'm like total anxiety, you know. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know if you've ever been in a life or death situation, but that's what it was like. All of a sudden, I feel something like touching, like gripping around my legs. I'm like, oh my god, it's eating me, you know. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm in the shark's jaws because I could, in my brain, as I was swimming, I could imagine it swimming towards me with its mouth open, and I kind of calculated when it would eat me. And yeah, I'm like, okay, it's my legs are gone now. But it was actually these locals who were pulling me like to safety, and as they were pulling me, you know, I'm choking on seawater. I'm looking back, and the shark had turned, and like I guess like a harpoon must have grazed it or hit it or something, and it turned and it started swimming in another direction. So finally, I reach the surface, and they put me on the little raft thing, and I'm coughing up all of the seawater in shock. My brother and cousins come to me, and they were all on the raft already because they had heard there was a shark. All the tourists quickly ran, you know, to safety. And, you know, the paramedics were around me, and they were coughing, and my cousins were like, they were crying, you know, they couldn't believe it, what was happening. So we went back to the shore, and the staff of the resort pulled us aside. They said, listen, we are sorry for what has happened. That has never, ever happened, ever in the history of the resort. You know, there's nothing we can give you to make up for the experience that you just experienced. But they said, here, take these. And they gave us all passes, like these little passes. And they said we could use that to get into any club in Veradero, Cuba, and to buy like all drinks for free. So and any tours as well. So in essence, the rest of our trip would be free. And they said only one condition, um, and that is not to tell the other tourists about the shark. You know, and you know, at first I was like, why not? Like they should know there's a shark in this water. But then I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I kind of understand that because, you know, their livelihood there in Veradero is all based on tourism. And if that ever got out, you know, it would kind of cripple their whole economy in that city, you know. So, you know, that whole day I was really disturbed. And then later that day, the photographer met us in the lobby, and he gave us that picture. I couldn't. That picture really summed up that moment so well. That is one of the most Kodak moments of my life. And so, one of the lessons I learned from all of this was that this entire episode is the best April Fool's joke on the planet. April Fools! Don't spoil it for the rest in the comments section. Thank you guys for the support and love you.